Chapter 2: The Man in the Iron Armor, Center. A long time ago I never would have thought I'd be here in the year 2007, partly because I don't have a very good imagination but mostly because people don't live for 200 years. I was born Nathaniel Werner. The details of my life are long forgotten now, all except the defining moment when I became the hero I am today. I was an archaeologist on a dig in England when I was in my early 30s. We found a suit of armor in a tomb that we'd discovered. I remember sitting around with my team discussing the magnitude of our discovery when we were attacked. The men that ambushed us all wore cloaks. I watched as they killed my colleagues in front of me, knocking me unconscious afterward. When I awoke I was wearing the armor that we'd found. I still recall the stale smell of rot inside of it to this day. Around me my attackers were performing a ritual of some sort. I watched in horror as they spilled the blood of my teammates into a large cauldron. After a great deal of chanting and a dark energy surrounding me, the men cut my bonds and let me go. They told me that the armor that my soul was now bound to would make me invincible and give me eternal life, but I would forever feel the pain of everyone I came into contact with. The only out I was offered was to remove the armor, thereby killing me. I murdered every last one of them, my insane screaming drowning out all of their cries. I never even considered removing the armor. I knew that despite the way I'd come to be this way, I was meant to use the power the armor gave me to protect people, to keep them from suffering. I keep myself from feeling their pain. Now as I enter the final chapter of this life, I can't help but wonder if maybe I should have given up before I started. Knight and Ataris entered the ship and made their way to the vast below-deck area. They began to grow concerned with the lack of security on the cargo ship where statesmen of the Freedom Phalanx was being held. I believe that we may have the wrong ship, Ataris said as they made their way into the large cargo hold that was lined with giant steel containers, making it look remarkably like a normal cargo ship. This is the boat that Keyword told us about, Knight said. Suddenly several large searchlights came on and focused in on the two heroes. You are indeed on the right ship, a man's voice said from the scaffold high above them. Unfortunately Statesman isn't here, the man said. A small army of Malta soldiers filed out of the large steel containers and surrounded Knight and Ataris. After 200 years in that armor, you must be pretty tired of it, the man on the scaffold said as he made his way down the stairs to meet Knight face to face. The man looked like a cowboy. He wore a black leather duster and black cowboy hat. His face was covered by a black handkerchief and he had two large pistols holstered on his hips. Actually, it's kind of grown on me, Knight said. The man nodded. I'll bet it has. Unfortunately, Malta has quite an interest in it, which means we'll have to take it from you, the man said. Knight shook his head and teleported out of the crowd of guards and up to the scaffold above. Flinging soldiers left and right off of the scaffold and to the ground far below, bullets ricocheting off his iron hide, Knight fought for everything he was worth. Ataris phased his body out of the soldier's grasp and started to head up to Knight when an electrical blast hit him and sent him to the ground. Sorry Ataris, but these cookie weapons of ours seem to be able to hit you even when you're intangible, the man said. Now, surrender to us Knight or I kill your friend, the man said as he put his pistol to Ataris' head. Knight teleported down to the man with his arms above his head. Don't hurt him, he said. Good boy, the man said before punching Knight in the chest, sending him flying across the room into one of the steel containers. Center, asterisk 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 is center. Knight came to and found himself strapped into a large machine. What's going on? He asked the cowboy. Like I said, Malta is very interested in your armor, so we're going to take it, the cowboy said. The bad news is that you'll die in the process, he added. Who are you? Knight asked. You may call me Omega Black, I'm the leader of Malta's Gunslinger project, the man explained. Knight looked across the room to see Ataris chained to a wall guarded by two soldiers. Knight turned his attention back to Omega Black when the machine began to power up. I'd like to tell you that this will be painless, but I don't want to lie to you. Omega Black said. The machine began to spark electricity onto Knight, and soon he was acting as a lightning rod for the machine. His screams of pain echoed throughout the ship as the machine worked to rip the armor from him. Ataris watched his teammate being tortured and gritted his teeth. I can't let Knight suffer like this, he thought to himself as he phased out of his chains and ran to Knight. The soldiers that were guarding Ataris fired at him and sent him to the ground again. As they moved in to retrieve him, he got back up and leapt at them. Ataris grabbed the men by the neck and dropped them to the ground before snapping their necks. He turned and ran to the machine again, electrical blasts grazing past him. Knight watched Ataris leap into the path of the electricity coming from the machine, blocking the current from hitting him. Omega Black looked on as the electricity turned Ataris intangible and went through him and into Knight. He saw Knight's armor glow bright white before it suddenly exploded, shards of shrapnel spraying the room and ripping through everything in its path. Surveying the damage that the explosion had caused, Omega Black saw an armorless Knight laying in the mangled remains of the machine he'd been strapped into. With a sigh, he started to leave the room. I want everyone off the ship in 5 minutes and I want the ship blown up in 6, he said into his walkie-talkie. Ataris phased through a nearby wall and made his way to Knight's motionless body. The large Jamaican dropped to his knees near his fallen teammate and shed a tear for his friend. I'm sorry I couldn't save you, Knight. Ataris choked out amidst his sobs. As he willed himself to become tangible again, he realized that he couldn't. He growled in anger as he realized that the machine must have altered him somehow and caused him to be unable to change back. Knight coughed and stirred slightly. What happened? He groaned. Knight, you're alive. Ataris exclaimed and moved to get the debris off of his friend but realized he couldn't. Of course I am, it'll take a lot more than a little explosion to take me out. Knight said as he pulled himself out of the twisted metal that was the machine. But your armor is gone. Ataris said as he watched his naked teammate rise to his feet. Knight looked down at his naked form and covered himself up. I don't understand, I should be dead, he said. Ataris nodded and got to his feet. We need to get out of here, the others may be in danger, he said. Knight nodded. Why are you still intangible? He asked as he rummaged through a locker for some clothes. Ataris shrugged. I can't change back, something happened when I jumped into the machine, he explained. Knight looked solemnly at Ataris after dressing in some work clothes he'd found. Thank you for saving me, old friend, I'll do everything I can to help you get back to normal, he said. Ataris nodded. I'll meet you at the base, he said and phased through the wall of the ship. Knight made his way to the top deck, stopping and waiting as the remaining Malta soldiers departed after setting the explosives needed to destroy the ship. When he was sure they were all gone, Knight exited the ship and teleported back up to the bridge just before the ship exploded and sank into the bay. With a sigh, Knight teleported himself to the entrance of the base. Center, asterisk 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 is center. Knight and Ataris are taken care of, sir. I just got the report from Omega Black. Keyword said into the phone. Was the armor recovered? The man in the office asked. No, sir, the armor was destroyed as was the ship and both heroes. Keyword said. The man in the office sighed. This is not good news, Thomas, he said. Yes, sir, I apologize for the incompetence of Omega Black. Keyword said. I want you to maintain your post and keep me up to date with where the operation stands hourly, the man in the office said. Yes, sir, I won't fail you. Keyword said with a nod as he hung up the phone. So, this was your doing? Knight asked as he entered the room after listening to the conversation Keyword was having. Keyword spun around in surprise and pulled a pistol from the back of his pants, pointing it at Knight for a second before firing. Knight teleported out of the path of the bullets and next to Keyword, where he gave him a solid right hook that knocked the man to the ground. Who are you? Knight asked. The man said nothing and received a kick to the stomach from Knight. Tell me who you are before choke the life out of you. Knight warned. The man looked Knight in the eyes, seeing if he could find truth in his words. I'm a spy for Malta, he said finally. I gathered. What's your mission? Knight asked. I was told to feed you false information to send you on suicide missions, the man explained. Are you really keyword? Knight asked. The man shook his head. The real keyword is still in Malta custody at a secret facility, the man explained. Knight nodded his head in understanding and offered the man his hand to help him up. The man took Knight's hand and groaned as he stood up slowly. Knight grabbed the man by the throat and lifted him in the air. If any of my people die today, I will not hesitate to make your demise extremely painful and slow. Knight said before tossing the man across the room and sending him smashing through a nearby wall. Knight sat in front of the computer that monitored his team's vital signs. He looked solemnly at the flat line readings of arson and diapered Dandy and clenched his fist tightly as he got up to retrieve the Malta spy. Ataris phased through the entrance of City Hall and made his way back to Azuria's office. Entering the room, he saw the Jamaican sorceress seated at her desk poring over a large book. Welcome, Ataris. Gotten yourself into some trouble? Azuria asked without looking up from her book. Yes, Azuria, I can't turn off my intangibility. Ataris explained. I know, but rest assured I am already working on a way to remedy the situation, she said as she got up and went to the intangible hero. How did you know already? He asked. My boy, you forget how wise your grandmother is and that she gave you your power. Azuria said with a smile. Ataris nodded. You probably already know, but Dementia's knight's armor was destroyed in a Malta ambush. Ataris said. I do know that, and still he lives. I'm very curious about the whole thing. Azuria said. When this is all over, I'd like for him to come see me, she added. If we're still alive, I'm sure he'll be right over. Ataris said. With a nod, Azuria returned to her seat and book and continued to look for a remedy for her grandson.